So again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate your time, obviously, to join us. And my name is Bella O'Hare, and I'm going to try the best I can to facilitate a conversation tonight between these two lovely gentlemen, John and Jason, which we'll get back to in just a minute. But let me first obviously welcome you. I see a lot of familiar faces and I see a lot of new faces. So for the familiar faces, thank you so much for coming back. And for the new faces, by your show of hands, may I see how many of you have come here tonight for the first time? Wow, that's terrific. We thank you so much for trying this out. Thank you. And I would like to, before we get going, I'd like to introduce a couple of more folks. I'd like for you to meet Irina Wolfley and Jonathan Buckley. Someone's got to be the brains of the operation. And that's Irina and Jonathan. So Irina is Let's Talk Vero, and Jonathan is Vero Minute. And it's a mother-son team. So, and they're incredibly gifted writers, which is a skill that I'm envious of. Tough to obtain that. I'd also like for you to meet the nice people that have been generous enough to support this endeavor. So I'd like for you to meet Jimmy and Kenny of Joey. I'm sorry, Joey. You know, that's what you get for winging it and not looking at your notes. I'm so sorry. Okay, you can call me Susie. All right, Kimmy and Joey. And I'm sure you've been to their place. It's phenomenal. Joey and Kimmy's seafood market. All right, the salmon with that sinful cream sauce is really good. Then Mr. Dingwall of Dingwall Architecture. Austin, I saw you here. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Christine Hughes, who is with Gail Sorensen Real Estate. I'd like to thank Morgan Reynolds with Beyond the Trend Marketing. And is Ed here tonight? Shanape? He's on his way, stuck in traffic, that same traffic, that horrible traffic in Vero Beach. He's the owner of Boulevard Tennis and Padel Club. And last but not least, the nice gentleman, Mr. Chris Cronin, who is Chris Cronin Media. He's a terrific photographer, and he always does an amazing job cutting the videos that you can then click on, and miraculously they open up and they work. So he does that for us. So thank you so much. I'd like for you also to meet a couple of colleagues of Mr. Coutinho. As you know, he is the mayor of the city council. His colleagues are John Carroll, thank you, and his wife Tracy, who also at one time was on the council, and the other council member is Mr. Voss. Thank you so much for coming tonight. And last but not least, we have a member of the county commission here tonight, and that's Miss Laura Moss. She's right here. I should just turn this over to you. Oh, and I need for you to meet Audrey too. Audrey too, okay? So we all went to see the opening night last night of the Little Shop of Horror, and it's really super fun. And of course they have some tickets left for tonight's show. So if you feel like you just want to stay, the show starts at 7:30, but it's super fun. So Audrey too. And for those of us who've been joining us, you may recall the plant started out just this tall, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And obviously Audrey 2's famous line is "Feed me, Seymour," and she gets a lot of food during the show. So I can highly recommend it. Also, another little public service announcement. We usually space out the Let's Talk Vero events of every 4 weeks. But obviously, because the theater is right now up and running for the season, they were really nice to kind of make it work for us, which is amazing. So our next Let's Talk Vero, it's not in 4 weeks from now, it's already in 2 weeks from now. Okay, I know, that's what I say. And so, but I wanted to share with you what we're going to do in 2 weeks from now. So we are going to have a Let's Talk Agriculture, because the fun fact, half of the county here is still land, undeveloped land. And so there is now a narrative about how to develop agriculture in addition to citrus, because obviously citrus has had issues. So we thought this would be really interesting for us to learn a little bit more about. So, and so the format is to discuss a resilient local food system through farm to table, small farms, and agricultural preservation. And we have, or I should say, Irina and Jonathan have arranged for the nationally recognized expert and regenerative and permaculture farming practices. His name is Tony Cho from Josen, and his place, which is fabulous, is up in Sebastian. So if you want literally a Zen moment and see beautiful plants, it's really fabulous. You'll be totally chilled out. It's really great. We also have Mr. Louis Schock of Schock Groves. That's been a local family for a long time. Britt Hogan of Birdie Hogan Farms, and Laura will also facilitate the conversation about agriculture, and that's Wednesday, November 5. Okay, so that was kind of the public service announcements for tonight. And what our goal is tonight is, of course, to have these nice gentlemen that volunteered their time to help us, kind of just give us some feedback on what's happening now in the city. And basically, the city made, as I understand it, the city made 5 asks to State Representative Bob Brackett, who in turn will facilitate those requests to the state. And Senator Groff, thank you. And we did invite Mr. Brackett, but he had a conflict, so maybe he'll come next time. So we'll see. And but there are 5 topics that basically these gentlemen will talk about. And I thought we'd break them up, take one topic, see if you have any couple questions on it, and then move on to the next topic. So that's on our agenda tonight. In addition to Jason giving us quick update on Three Corners, Airport, and downtown, right? He's going, oh God, I need an aspirin. So Jason Jeffries is the planning director for the city of Vero Beach. And as you know, John is the mayor of the city of Vero Beach. And if you haven't joined us before, part of the narrative or community engagement we've been trying to be proactive in is to make sure that we know where we live. So there are only about 17,000 people that actually live in the city of Vero Beach. And everyone else lives, quote unquote, in the county, but they obviously have a Vero Beach address. And so what we've learned doing this is that we've learned from Monty Falls, who is the city director, that 70% of the phone calls they get of people requesting services are calling to the city, and they didn't realize they didn't live in the city to request those services. They actually need to reach out to the county. So, but I'm sure all of you here now know whether or not you live in the city or not. So, and the city has kind of a wonky, I think, contour in terms of what's the city. And, but the easiest visual is that once you drive over the bridges, the city is somewhat between the 2 7-Elevens on A1A, that's the city, and then it on the island, and then it funnels over the bridge. Did I not say that well? You're laughing, good, okay, and then obviously to the mainland. But the easiest visual for me is the 7-Elevens on the island, and then what are 2 easy visuals for the city?
Well, Nino's Corner is the western boundary. On the
Nino's Corner.
Think of where Nino's 43rd Avenue.
Okay, that's a good visual. And then another one? What's another good one?
Where the old, I always call it the Tractor Supply, or I always call it the old Kmart Center, but
Oh, that's the other.
that's the south end.
Oh, okay, okay.
When you're on US 1,
All right.
north, essentially the north side is the airport.
Okay.
Everything north of the airport is
All right.
the county.
I'll remember that next time. Airport, Nino's, Tractor Supply, 7-Eleven. Okay. I got this. I'm sorry? That's the city. That's the city. And so that's.
43rd Avenue, what about if you're 60 and 43rd Avenue?
Well, 43rd is the western boundary, if, like, you're going to the mall,
Right.
or the Home Depot and the Lowe's,
Right.
that's all, you would think that's in the city because of how it's developed, but it's actually unincorporated county.
Okay.
That's in the county. Yeah,
Nino's-
Ninos is in the city.
See,
This is in the city, okay.
so
That-
what about Fourth and out towards Fourth and?
Going south, like near the Ford dealership? You talking about that?
I'm about like by Target, Fourth Street, 43rd Avenue, out by Budweiser's, State, over there.
That's all county.
That's all.
See, the contour is very wonky. So let me go down here.
That's stuff we don't think about, right?
No, in most states, if you're from another state, a lot of us are.
Yeah.
um,
We should go.
As an area develops, it usually is brought into the city. It's not, but here in Florida, the county can have what's called an urban service area and provide the municipal services.
Why?
Just the way it is.
Right.
That's a long discussion about Florida.
So speaking about the way it is, so the first line item that John will talk to you about is the request,
Sure.
I'm sorry,
No, I'm saying, yes.
yeah,
Okay.
is the tourist tax.
So we,
And,
okay.
yeah, and I was gonna just give a little bit of background, because we talked about how hard it is to distinguish between where do we live, in the city or in the county. But obviously, we use all the services, right? Doesn't really matter necessarily where our address is. But the hub obviously is kind of in the periphery that you've outlined. So I'm sure you know that there's this thing called a tourist tax, right? And obviously, John will explain a little bit more about it. So the interesting thing about the tourist tax is that half of the tax is collected by the city of Vero Beach. And right now, the tax is annualizing to be collected at roughly $6.6 million. Okay, so roughly half of that right now, ballpark, is collected, 3.3 million, by the city of Vero Beach. Because the beaches are here, most of the hotels are here, et cetera. And then the other 3.3 million is collected, quote unquote, in the county. So the really interesting kind of fly in the ointment is that the city has no rights to a single dollar of the tax it generates. And obviously, $3.3 million is a lot of money that, of course, the city could use. And it's not just for people that live in the city, it's for all of us that don't, because collectively, of course, we use all the services of the city, whether we go to the beach and get assistance from a lifeguard, or we go to the county commission facilities, et cetera, et cetera. So hence, that's really, as kids would say, that's really not fair. That you generate all this money and you don't have any utility of it, you have no usage of it. All the usage is deferred to the county. And so now, one of the requests that the city has made, i.e. Mr. Coutinho, is to Mr. Brackett, and hence the state level, is that the equitable distribution of those dollars should really be considered. And the city really should get half of the money, and it really needs half of the money. And the one thing I've learned doing this, and we're kind of newbies at this, I don't want to say we're winging it, but we're learning along the way. So what I've learned is that in order for these things to kind of come to fruition, and I thought collection of taxes would stay and reside where they're collected, I'm obviously wrong. But what I've learned is that unless collectively we either know about it or have any interest and participate and talk about it, ironically, nothing changes and things just stay always the same. And so that's kind of my takeaway from thank you to you, Let's Talk Vero, and becoming engaged in the community. So I'm learning. Yes.
Very well said.
Thank you. But I'm gonna keep learning, and so John, so
Yes.
please.
Start? Okay, here we go.
Absolutely.
So we'll start with the least controversial subject on the agenda, right?
Okay, yes, that's, we're just easing into it.
We're gonna just, right, we're gonna jump with both
The
feet.
tourist tax.
So let me explain what happened today. It's a yearly process I'm from another state, like everybody else, and that, it is, I don't know if it's unique to Florida, but it's unique in my experience, where the municipalities, 501c3s, various civic organizations, once a year, it's Indian River County Legislative Delegation Legislative Session, where you go in front of your representatives, and we're lucky in many instances, because our two representatives, we have Robbie Brackett, who's our state rep, and Aaron Grawl, who's our state senator, happen to live here in Vero Beach. Robbie actually lives in the city, Aaron, Senator Grawl actually lives in the county. So it's much easier for us to relate to these two individuals, because, they're local folk, and we're not that big of a county that you don't know these people. So every year, there's not a fixed number that you can ask, what your ask gonna be. You go up what you believe will help your municipality in our instance. In 501s or other organizations will ask for different types of legislation, or for them to back certain types of bills, or to them to what they call appropriations, to help their organizations. Commissioner Moss, who, if you don't know Commissioner Moss, she was a former city council person, she was a former mayor. And this discussion about the tourist tax, also known as the bed tax, has been around for, I don't know if it predated her tenure on city council, but long before I ever showed up on city council. And it's been a very contentious discussion between us and the county. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but it's grown that way because we're asking somebody for money that they don't normally give you, and that's always could be a contentious discussion. At the city level, we decided this year that it was about time for us to draw a line in the sand. We tried to negotiate various and sundry things with the county commission to try to get some relief from this tax issue. No offense to the county commission, kind of fallen on deaf ears. So we decided that the only way to get this fixed is to go to Tallahassee. So that's what we're doing. So the plan is to authorize local governments, including municipalities, to file applications for tourist development tax revenues with the local tourist development council, and that the county governing board for tourist tax revenue uses authorized under the Florida statute. And there's specific things you can use this money for. Doesn't go into your general fund. There are specific uses that you can use it for. Essentially, it has to be for the development of tourism. Now, it's a kind of a broad definition, but like this year, if you were a certain size county, up until this year, you could not apply to use the tourist tax money for lifeguards. However, this year they changed it, and they changed that regulation, so now you could use it for lifeguards. So there's a list of things you can use it for. And so what we're trying to do is request that Florida statute 125, I won't give you all the dots and decimals after that, be amended to require local tourist development councils and the corresponding county governing boards to accept and consider applications for grants filed by local governments, including municipalities, for tourist tax revenue uses authorized under the Florida law. So we're gonna make it active, and when I mean active, we're gonna be very active in this. We've already gotten the support of our senator. She's I've been working with us and trying to draft the legislation to get that through the whole legislative process. To be quite frank, I doubt if we're gonna get it done in 1 year. You never know, but it's a long process. It's a matter of public record. The city employs a lobbyist. We'll be working with our lobbyist to quarterback this through as best we can. And because I guess in my vernacular, it's not getting serious, okay? But everything that's happening in the state, and we'll go into some other things later here, this is money now, we can't continue as a city to, to leave this money on the table. It's only gonna be exacerbated as we go into the future. We're adding 100+ rooms by the airport, includes the Marriott. It's Marriott by property going up by the airport. There's an additional 100 rooms that increase this potential revenue. And then there's Three Corners. You know, eventually when Three Corners gets built out, that's an extra 250, what they call keys, or 250 rooms. So, and there's no other kind of hotel development in the rest of the county that even comes close to that. So this is only, we're gonna be contributing more and more and more and more and more to this as it goes along. So now, time came to, you know, draw the line in the sand. And I guess as the mayor would say, you know, stay tuned to see what happens. You know, we've been very public about it. We haven't pulled any punches when anybody asks us the questions. We haven't hidden anything from everybody. This is what our intention is to do. And
What do you think your probability of success is?
too early to tell.
Yeah.
The fact that we already have this, it's a long story how this came about, but when we were kind of testing the waters on another issue, we were up in Tallahassee last year advocating for the city. Our senator actually volunteered to champion this first. And it wasn't, I'm gonna say it wasn't out of the blue, but it was kind of, we weren't prepared for that. We weren't prepared for that kind of an action coming from this meeting that we had. And the lobbyist we have is very, has good knowledge of how these things work from the standpoint of his involvement. You probably all realize this, but if anybody hasn't told you this, most bills in Tallahassee get written by lobbyists, okay? If you thought that was a fact, it really is the fact, okay? They really get written by lobbyists, because lobbyists have the time. Remember, you got a part-time legislation, yeah, okay. They're part-timers, okay? They're there, and then not only a part-time, they're there for a very short period of time. And for them to write sometimes a very complex legislation that gets passed, it can't happen unless you have a tremendously large staff, which most of them don't, or the lobby is helping you do that. So we'll be actively doing that, trying to get it done. You really have to stay tuned. It's going to be how our senator and our lobbyist writes the legislation, and then we'll find out. We'll find out fairly soon, because when they start scheduling committee meetings, you'll find out if it's being taken seriously off the bat by how your committee meetings are being scheduled or not.
Okay.
Okay, and whether or not you're getting some tertiary support, like not direct support, but some tertiary support by Florida League of Cities, or some other groups, or some other counties or municipalities who are digging their representatives to support.
And John, before we get to this sexy topic called, let me check, SB 180. Real quick, so let's assume you're successful, whether it's maybe this legislative year or the subsequent, because you're gonna keep asking now to basically get your money. So let's say you have 3.3 million. Can you give us an idea of what could you now spend that on? Because I know it has to be related to tourism, if I understand it correctly.
Assuming they accept it, remember, you have to make an application to spend this money in front of the Tourist Development Council. And assuming you're very good at advocating what you want the money for instance, if the monies were available now and we were allocated that amount that you said, you know, one of the first things I would advocate for, and again, this is only me, okay, this is not, I'm not speaking for the city council. I would advocate for, payment of our lifeguards. Lifeguards cost the city, just about $1 million a year. That's a substantial amount when you have a general fund of $35 million. So that would be my personal first sense. Another thing would help us, in the rebuilding the Hummiston Boardwalk, which is another topic we'll discuss today. But that would be, the Hummiston Boardwalk is a first. Council member Carol brought up in one of our last, or it wasn't the last city council meeting, it was maybe the one before that, I forget, about, we're gonna have to be taking serious action on the Con Beach boardwalk, sooner than later, or later, whatever. We can't ignore the situation at Con Beach forever. Something like that would be, something that we would look at.
So it would.
I mean,
it would go
those are
to
the
you.
things right off the top of my head, I think
Right.
we would be looking at from my perspective.
So now let me go to the second item, which was, as you said, SB 180, and I said, can you make it less jargony? What is it? And, but I know big picture, it's about tax planning and development. And I think, Jason, you may have a couple of comments on that as well.
So,
Yeah.
So, I know everybody's very busy with their own lives, you got things to do, but what is happening in Tallahassee, I call it kind of an assault on home rule, and SB 180 is a poster child for assault on one rule, local rule. And it was a bill that kind of got, a lot of the amendments to this bill, as it went through the committee process, got added, got tacked on. I think it began with good intentions.
It's improving our emergency service, emergency response to hurricanes. So there's some good things in the bill.
So it started as that, and then all of a sudden, all these committee meetings and pet projects and pet ideas got molded, it became SB 180. And
Trading for votes.
right, everyone was, trading votes for their pet projects, and what it does, I'm gonna give you the Cliff Note definition, and then Jason can really get into how this is gonna impact you. Essentially, if this bill stays as it is written, the changing of code or ordinances that could impact development, such as zoning, how you amend your comprehensive plan, how you go about protection of your neighborhoods, how you go and enforce this code in development, and even in development of the process that you employ or deploy internally to your city is affected. Okay. Essentially, you lose control of what you can do in your own city and how you can do it, and the profile and personality and environment of your city will change because it will be out of your control. It's very, let's just say, it's a very pro-developer statute. Okay, I mean, very pro-developer. So, for example, Orange County, which is Orlando, they worked on their comprehensive plan for 10 years. And they submitted it just after this bill was passed and was rejected because of the changes that they were requesting from the comprehensive plan, and because the language in the statute is so ambiguous, and it's more written from a judicial point of view versus a legislative point of view, that it was flat out rejected by the authority in Tallahassee that reviews comprehensive plans, et cetera, and approves them. So, so if you want, can you get more into what, some of the things that,
How it affects us?
yeah,
Yeah.
Jason will give you this, how it affects us, which That's
Well,
what we care about.
I think the language that the mayor's talking about, there's some terms in the two particular sections that says that local municipalities or counties, so this is also affecting the county also we cannot adopt any comprehensive plan amendments or land development regulation, which are the actual specific rules we use in terms of how land is developed, that are more restrictive or burdensome to the property owner or to a developer essentially. And this preemption, one section of it basically, not only did they put into law that the cities cannot adopt any additional rules for 1 year after a storm hits within 100 miles of your county. So, and there was an example was given, I watched a seminar, they talked about the storm track for one particular storm. I think because like some of the counties, I mean, we're a fairly small county, but like for Palm Beach County, they talked about Palm Beach, that just the northern tip of Palm Beach clips the 100 miles of the tract, but it affected I think there was a city on the coast that's obviously way far away from, at the total southern end of Palm Beach. The comp plan they had been working on for years was tossed out, just like the mayor mentioned, to Orange County. So, so basically it says for 1 year after a storm hits, well, every year we have some storm, well, we're not done this year, but we look good. But, you can always have at least a tropical storm, which they don't usually have that much impact. And really, Milton, I know a lot of you live on the beach and it was very devastating to Central Beach, but then the rest of the county, like, what happened? It was like a little wind. But, so that basically could put you in just a continual ban of adopting any new rules in forever, And then there's another provision that they retroactively went back to, I think, like, Ian, Debbie, Helene maybe, like three of the three storms that we had in the last couple of seasons, and said we can't do anything for, they backtracked to those, and then mentioned, they basically put a preemption for 3 years, we can't do anything, and basically that covered the entire state. It means no one in the state until 2027 can pass anything new in comp plan or land use development. So how it's affecting us directly is the city has been working on some neighborhood policies, updating our comprehensive plan to better protect our neighbor. We keep calling it neighborhood protection, it gets people confused, thinks we were doing some policing thing or something. But it's really putting some stronger neighborhood policies in to kind of prevent that commercial creep into our neighborhoods, and we were strengthening our policies. Well, that project, we've been working on that project maybe on and off the last 5 years. We did some hearings a couple years. It takes time to draft these as staff, and because of staff timing, we kind of have to adjust. And we were pretty close to being done to adopt it this year, or this fall, and we had to put it on hold because of this law being passed. So that's an example of how it's impacting the city. Another, one of my projects I've been working on since I've been at the city is to update our land development regulations, or what you call the zoning code. The zoning code really dates to 1978. And the mayor knows, we've done some work in our commercial districts, but there's like a long-term plan I have is to kind of overhaul the whole, taking it piece by piece, updating the land development regulations, clarifying rules, making it easier to understand. But in that, then kind of this law is kind of a boon to the attorneys. Somebody could claim, we think we're improving and clarifying our code, but they could claim that we're making it more burdensome and more restrictive. So that could put a lot of those land development regulation updates on hold. And if you ever look at our code, it's not the easiest to read. And really the goal I have is to I'm trying to put some different, I'm trying to implement some some rule, no, implement, some features to the code to make it easier for just the general public to understand it. But that'd be clarifying, and that might be making it more restrictive. So that's kind of the direct impacts is you're gonna see. And, you know, and a lot of what, a lot of cities have brought this up, you know, let's be honest, something happens in a community, and we do, sometimes, you know, we can't, as much as I'm a planner, I'm supposed to like just be Nostradamus or know everything in the future. Sometimes a development gets proposed. Good example is that self-storage that a lot of people talk about that happened down near the city hall. Whoever thought they would put one there and the code allowed it, but we sometimes have to react to those developments and change our rules. Well, now that's being more restrictive. And that will prevent updating the code to improve, you know, to improve our code, to protect the, you know, the community, so we can manage the development for how we want our community to develop.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you know,
Sure.
what I'm gonna do is, whoever wishes to ask a question,
No, because we're kind of confused.
yeah, I wanna give you the microphone because that's the only way the video
confusing
picks
issue.
it up.
Okay.
Okay, the way so here you go.
We have Joey's.
I know you're close. but-
Joey and Kimmy Seafood,
Uh-huh.
and we have storage right across the street and a new car wash. We have like 800 car washes. But then we have a storage too, like a huge one, and.
Where's this?
Joey Kim.
US 1, 18th Street,
18,
and US
right
1.
across from the new car wash in the.
I mean,
Oh,
we're just
oh.
talking about storage
okay.
centers, but
The
like,
Press Journal site.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
which was gonna be a million different things, and now we have a car wash, which we have, now it's putting all these other businesses out of business. Because there's like 5 of them, and now we have this huge storage thing, and now you're saying there's one off of 14th. I mean, what is the point?
Point of,
This conversation, like, what's the point of this conversation?
well, I think what we're bringing up is that this SB 1, again, this is with the legislative acts of the city to the state legislature. What the city is asking, and all the cities, most of the cities in Florida are asking, plus some lawsuits have been filed. We're asking the legislature to amend the state legislation to basically end this preemption of local control.
That's,
We want to keep the control
Locally. I mean, planning is best done locally.
Absolutely. So is it?
And really what they're doing by, what you're seeing a lot of actions, it's basically getting rid of planning and just letting the developer run.
City against county?
No.
No.
It's, I hate to say it, because I'm not necessarily, we want good development, I'm not anti-development, but it's basically letting development run amok. Anything the developer wants, they will get.
With this new rule.
What-
With
yeah.
the new law.
Well, or stopping the ability of cities to change their rules so they can better react to the changes in development patterns.
Just trying to understand.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that's a good example. So, you know, we never thought that so many people from the north would be moving down here and bringing all their stuff with them.
You never know when you need winter coats and boots.
And, well, right, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I'm from up north, but I left my stuff around. I didn't come with as much stuff. I'm younger, so I didn't come with all of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, so we had this big influx, and they're responding to the market, and and all these storage places, moved in, but we needed to have a discussion as a city, where's the appropriate location for these? And we, between the planning board, and we have a planning board member here, and city council, who ultimately adopts the rules, when we did a major overhaul of our commercial zoning district rules a couple of years ago, and when it came to self-storage, the planning board recommended, and the council approved, we used to allow self-storage places in most of our commercial districts, including industrial. Now we've restricted it down to, you only can put self-storage in the city, you can only do it in our industrial zoning districts.
Which is where?
In the city,
Down by.
our industrial zoning districts is along commercial, along Commerce Avenue along the railroad. And up along kind of that north area, as you go north from downtown on US 1, some of those properties along that corridor are industrial. And then the whole airport is zoned industrial. Well, that's, I can't talk for the county.
The mall is already in the county. And yeah, see, it's confusing. There's yeah, I know.
I have property on the beach, I have property out west,
Right.
so it can be so confusing.
Right.
So I'm just trying to bring it up so people understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a lot.
Okay,
You want
thank
to-
you. I appreciate it. It is confusing. It can be, absolutely. So I know lots of questions, I had asked you earlier, John, what you thought what now the probability is that this second line item is SB 180, which is, you said was pro-developer. What do you think that probability is, that it'll
They've
pass
already-
in favor of the developer?
There's already some modifications to that statute already been filed, or pending in front of some committees. It's good, I think the reaction to it, something will happen this session. The idea is,
It's already passed already.
the
Well, the
SB
SB
180 is in effect.
But we're asking for amendments.
Modifications are going in. The
And
Florida
we,
League of
as
Florida,
individuals, have any influence?
you need
By
to,
phone calls or writing letters?
I think that's what happens. This has to be a local, kind of a grassroots effort flowing to your state reps and or your state senator. Because those are the people involved with this. It's not the county who's close by, it's not the city who's close by, it's up in Tallahassee, which makes it more difficult. And that's why the Florida League of Cities is taking this on.
And there's lawsuits.
And there's lawsuits involved, and we as a city are just, are joining in with our voice, through our representatives to go out there and, to fight for the local rule. And that's what you have to do, because if nobody said anything, this would be a law that I think would be, long-term would be, over a generation, would have such a profound impact, not only on Vero Beach, but we pride ourselves here in the kind of lifestyle we have here, kind of like being slightly different than the rest of the world, the rest of Florida world here, and we're trying to maintain that as best we can. And Jason will correct me if I'm wrong, let me give an example of how this could, because I think sometimes examples are best versus just trying. Let's fast backwards 50 years. When was the Spires built? Okay, let's go back to the Spires.
Yeah.
If this was now, and the Spires got built, and we, as the city, wanted to modify the code and or put it into the charter, modify the zoning to prevent that from happening, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
That's the simplest example. You couldn't do it. You couldn't maintain the personality that you want for your city. If the developer said, no, hey, because by the way, there was a lot of empty land there at that time. So it wasn't, don't envision it the way of all those beautiful houses lined up, next to the Spires. That was all vacant land.
That's
No.
a good,
You couldn't do it.
and think of it, at that time, if this kind of rule was in place at that time, or that's all vacant land, we would have had a lot more towers.
You would have so everywhere from Con Beach to Holiday Inn, or used to be the Holiday Inn, would now probably all be high rises.
So I'm so glad you asked the question.
No, but he's using an example that
Using an
if
example,
this SB
because-
180 had existed at that
You
time,
couldn't have prevented it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty of our town.
Yeah, but that's, now this jeopardized, this statute jeopardized.
So in your spare time, you can hit the phone and write to your local representative. SB 180 is the.
SB 1A is the bill, it's actually in,
Oh, the bill, excuse me.
the state statute's called section 252, if you wanna go read state statutes.
I think if you wanna get, if you want, we can give you more specifics afterwards or later,
Yeah.
but that's the that's the general gist of it. Okay,
I was gonna answer,
Actually
Kimmy,
trying to like build high-rise.
no.
Kimmy, I was
No,
gonna
just
answer
an
your
example.
question. No, it's okay.
I'll talk to you
I was
later.
gonna answer your question. The mall is its own zone, that's it, just the mall. So it's in a special section. Jason made such a good point, and that is, if an area is zoned for things that we don't want, it's gonna happen anyway. Like, that storage locker blocked from City Hall, or car washes. Tomorrow night is really, really important. I want to invite everybody in this room to join me tomorrow night. County Commission is having a joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission. Okay, so it's going to be all of us in the commission chambers. That's Building A, which is right across from motor vehicle. And most people have been to motor vehicle, right across the street. It starts at 6 o'clock. So we're gonna be talking about things like that. We're sick, everybody's sick of cookie cutter, okay? But guess what? You have to change your rules, you have to change your regulations, because when we decide these things, and you've probably heard the term quasi-judicial, that's a whole different animal, okay? Usually when we vote on things, it's called legislative. That's your opinion. When it's quasi-judicial, you are enforcing the rules and regulations. It's not your opinion. You have to do things you don't like. So, if you don't like, yes, I got a second to that motion. If you don't like something, you have to change the rules on it. What we don't like, and one of the things we'll definitely be talking about, are the cookie cutter subdivisions that are becoming increasingly popular. Actually, they're unpopular, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they're unpopular. It keeps happening until you change the rules. I think this will be the first of more than one meeting. I don't know how many. We haven't done this before. So I invite you again. It's tomorrow. That's easy to remember, 6 o'clock. And it's at the County Commission Chambers across the street from motor vehicle. Anybody who wants any further information, please see me afterwards. And
That's
Kimmy,
great.
you too, please feel free
Thank
to
you.
ask me questions
Thank you so
anytime.
much, that's terrific, thank you. But I love what you said, so if you have the time, write to your representative or give them a call, yes, please.
Well, we could change it up on you a little bit. Because Commissioner Moss brought up something good, and it's a good segue to one of the things I wanted to mention. Because I know, being the planning director, and we had just on last Thursday, a very contentious zoning approval. I think it's being commented on social media and stuff. And I think it's important, as best I can, and I know there's a lot of jargon in planning, is to kind of explain the planning process and how you can plug in and when certain things get decided. And really, Commissioner Moss brought up a really good point about quasi-judicial hearings, and how when you get down to the development approval process, you have to follow the rules as they're in the place. So, and we'll be putting more up on, I'm gonna be putting some stuff up on our website to explain this planning process, but when you are talking, and I know there's a lot, and it kind of sounds like the first step in some of this, talking about this is tomorrow for the county. When you're talking kind of how you want the community to develop, kind of what we call a vision, that's called a vision plan. And the city did adopt a vision plan in 2005. We will be, probably in the next couple years, be updating. That'll be one of the major projects coming out of my department, to update our vision plan, because it's about 20 years old, and we'll be heading into updating our comp plan. But the vision plan is, I think, like if you're a business person and you think about a mission statement, that's what a vision plan is. It's kind of that statement of how we want our community to develop. So a lot of those discussions about, and I know like you're having coming up here in a couple of weeks, the discussion about agriculture, and I know it's important with the county is like, how is this community gonna grow given the changes in agriculture and all the influx of population, kind of those broader discussions about how we visualize our community. That's what you do during the vision plan. Then, once the community, you have a vision plan, those things get what we start to do as planners, we start pulling items out of that vision plan and develop what's called the comprehensive plan and the policies that are in the kind of, now, if you're to go read our comprehensive plan, it's very dry. It's not the most exciting document because it's all the goals, objectives, and policies of the city, but it's all based on what's the community vision. Our comprehensive plan was all, the major update was done in 2018. We do different updates from time to time. We just did it because of the three corners, adopting the three corners plan. We had to update our comprehensive plan. This is the official guiding, it's adopted by ordinance, meaning it's the official guiding document for development for the city. Again, that's a legislative process where people can put input and have some input into how the community develops. From there, there's land development regulations. So there, we're taking all those comprehensive plan policies and putting them into the specific rules of how they guide development. That is the so-called zoning rules. All the rules that developers and you as property owners have to follow. Those are the land development regulations. When we're doing, you hear us have, or you get the notice from us that we're having a public hearing on the approval of a project, that is a quasi-judicial process. That approval, and that's going before the Planning and Zoning Board, or even if it's an approval that's administrative, being approved by my staff or myself, we have to apply the rules as they're adopted by City Council. We cannot, on a whim, decide to change it because of outrage or emotion. That would be called arbitrary and capricious. The only people who win in that type of stuff are the attorneys. And I know it's frustrating, when you see a quasi-judicial hearing, obviously it's an it's the major projects at the city that get approved through what's called a quasi-judicial hearing through a major site plan, which is done under our Planning and Zoning Board. They are done as public meetings to be transparent about the approvals, and I as planning director, I find it very important, because especially for these major projects, because it makes sure that there's no sloppiness in terms of the review for these projects, because it makes sure that, we have to write a staff report, check, the checks and balances to make sure every rule and regulation of the city and the comp plan is being followed through the approval. But for you as a public, it also gives you, especially if you're a direct neighbor to a project, you're what's called a affected party. And you have certain rights, but you gotta come to that hearing, you have to be able to prove, I don't wanna say prove, but you gotta be able to submit the reasons you are an affected party and meeting the legal definition of affected party. And then you state why this project or why you might be aggrieved. You gotta establish all that in that hearing at the Planning and Zoning Board. Now, the general public can speak and give your input, but it's the affected parties that have more rights under that review. So that's why it's called a quasi-judicial process. So I understand these can be very frustrating for the general public, but that's how kind of the process. So I think if you have concerns about how the community is developing, you really need to engage yourself in a couple years, we'll be doing updating our vision plan for the community. That's time to engage. Really, anytime we do what's called the vision plan, that's the time as a community to really put your input in. So like we did with downtown master plan or the Three Corners project, that's the time really for community to voice how you want the community to develop. And then and we will be updating our letter, the notice letter. But when you get a letter from us and it's on letterhead with a phone number on it, you got questions about the project, feel free to call the planning office. We will always answer your questions. You can always come into our office. We are very transparent. We'll pull out the plan, we'll show it to you, and we'll tell you what the rules are and how this project is meeting it. So,
All right.
so hopefully that helps, and we'll be putting more on the website.
So real quick, just in time, because it's our time, so we have about 29 minutes. Because we promised the theater we would be done at 7 o'clock. So like 4 more things I thought we should at least touch on. Definitely the property tax,
Right.
line item that's being escalated. And I'd like for you to still have time to make some comments about Three Corners, Pocahontas Park, and the airport. So, that's,
So that's a lot.
Oh, that's a lot.
so we'll just be,
Two of these.
brevity is, so we'll, but why don't
We'll go
we start
quick.
with property tax, because that has obviously some ripple effects.
Right.
And then we'll go to the other 3.
The property tax issue is, I mean, that's all over the news. You can, hopefully you can understand that the fact that the city is not a proponent for doing away with property taxes, because it's like, that would be like eliminating 35% of our revenue stream. And if anybody here runs a business, I mean, it's tough to recover when somebody eliminates 35% of your revenue stream. Where's this money gonna come from? My ask of our legislators was the same, similar to what I did for SB 180, is that if you really want to eliminate the property taxes, please have a plan of how you replace them. I have not heard, if somebody has, please raise your hand. I have not heard anybody in Tallahassee tell me how they're gonna replace 35% of any municipalities or counties' revenue stream once they eliminate property taxes. They've had some ideas, some
13% sales tax.
13% sales tax, increase the tax on all the tourists that show up, et cetera, et cetera. So, 35% from the city's, general fund, that 35% essentially is the entire budget of our police department. Now, if you cut that 35% off from us, let's just say hypothetically, it happened, we're not gonna eliminate the police department, so what happens to the rest of the city services that you get? Okay, remember now, we can't touch property taxes, so what do? The only thing to do is, that $55 fence fee may become $1,000 now. Don't laugh, I'm not gonna say we're gonna do it, but I'm just saying things like that. Cause where else you gonna revenue? Or you just strip yourself of services and you get down to having a police department and a few other functions. And I'm not sure, that's the unintended consequences here. Okay, it looks great. Hey, I don't wanna pay property taxes either, it's really wonderful. But you do get services. And I know we're very property-oriented state here, and I know very citizen-oriented. But if we're gonna do it this way, I guess why don't you just eliminate cities altogether and we go and live in our houses and, forage for food.
Wild West.
Yeah, do whatever you want to do, clean those streets, take your garbage out, etc. But I'm digressing. But that's essentially what we do, is just to advocate for them to understand that this profoundly affects your cities, your municipalities in this county, not just Vero Beach, but the others. And that, please understand that, how it affects. And again, the Florida League of Cities is actively lobbying against this situation. I only can tell you to, stay tuned. It'll be an interesting conversation in Tallahassee. And it's also good that the municipalities in our county mentioned this, and each one did. It's because Representative Brackett sits on a committee that's reviewing all this. And so that's.
So it sounds like we need some kind of a property tax, right, to continue to pay for services. I mean, otherwise it's hard to find the money.
I know this kind of like weedy stuff for people, like it's too much detail, and I've had a hard day working and, trying to raise my family. But this has the kind of effect, you don't have to pay a lot of attention, but you have to pay some attention because, you know, this is gonna affect your family life.
Right.
As you know, if you raise your families here, or you retire here, your grandchildren come and visit because.
So
it will-
losing that 35%, is that roughly $12 million?
That's
ballpark?
roughly 35, yeah, it's close to 13 million, right?
Okay. What would you like to hear about? This gentleman is right, we need to keep moving. So what would you like to talk about? I had a list. Yeah, so why don't we take an update on the airport? Because I think that's pretty current right now. Thank you for moving on. So the
It's-
airport, oh, I'm sorry, this gentleman have a question? No, okay.
You want-
So, John and Jason, you want to have some comments regarding airport, i.e., anything happening, build up, parking lot?
Right, we're in the site plan. Just because we own the airport, by the way, we just don't go ahead and decide we're gonna put a parking lot and just throw it in there. Okay? We go through the same process as if you were a private party, like, you know, citizen going to do, want to put a parking lot or any other kind of. So they're going through a site plan right now, to expand the parking, to expand both handicap parking, short-term parking, move employee parking, so it doesn't clog up the terminal area. Longer-term parking in that empty land that's across from the Piper main entrance. That's all in the planning process. Should have close to 1,000 plus or minus cars total when it's all done. They're relocating part of that, there's a relocation of the car rentals to free up some terminal space, and there's some renovations going on at the terminal to help the passenger experience as they embark and disembark from the airport. So that's all ongoing. Todd and his team up at the airport are working very diligently on getting that going. It's, you know, it's the number one priority, and it's there every day. Because we believe that's what the passenger's gonna see first, is, you know, getting in and out of the terminal and parking. And I've said it, every time I have the chance to say it, I would ask everyone to have patience with us, please, because these things do take time. Construction of anything takes a while, no matter whether it's done by a government or private person. But we haven't ignored it. It's moving as fast as we can move it, based on all the rules and regulations that we have to follow like everybody else. Again, I speak for myself, but I think I know the two council members here well enough that if you have questions on it, you should contact us. And if you have frustrations, you should contact us. And don't trust everything you read on social media.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the airport? Otherwise, I'll move on to the couple more topics. Yes, ma'am. Here, let me hand you the microphone so you picked up on the video. Thank you.
Does the city or the FAA determine what airlines come into the airport?
Absolutely no.
Not the city.
Not the city. City makes no, if you accept federal funds at your airport, which we do, which we have for a number of years, you can't deny a carrier to come into your airport, assuming it meets the rules and regulations your airport has established for the handling of carriers. And that, those rules and regulations are very lengthy, but they basically, you know, when you can land, how you, you know, time differential between takeoffs and landings of different carriers. There's a set of rules and regulations that we have put forth. So that's how JetBlue, you know, that's why JetBlue's coming, that's why American's coming. They will have to sit down with our airport staff and Todd and his team. Breeze, because they were first and they became the first legacy carrier at the airport. They had preference, you want to call it that, of their landings and takeoffs and so on and so forth. JetBlue's next. They're gonna have to slot in somewhere. I believe we need an hour between the takeoff and the landing, between each flights. They'll have to slot in and they'll have to adjust their schedules and American be the third person and will have to do that. So I can guarantee you, because you can go, because I've done it, I went online because American is a carrier I use, and just to hypothetically go from here to San Francisco via Charlotte, and you can do it, but the problem is that flight schedule, that airline, that American has published, is not gonna be the flight schedule, because it hasn't been approved by the airport authorities yet. There's gonna be changing in their schedules, I can guarantee you that, but the long answer to your short question is, we probably had a capacity issue now with the number of carriers that are either coming in, of how we can handle them based on one gate. We can handle 2 planes at a time, we only have 1 gate. The airport would have to do some expansion, which we're not really, we're thinking about, but that's about it. So right now, there would have to be a lot of discussions and negotiations for 4th carrier to come in, but we could not, under the rules and regulations, FAA deny them.
And John and Jason, can you give us a little bit of an update, Three Corners? Just in terms of what's happening?
Very good subject. You know, the city has selected a developer. We've been in pre-negotiations. City council had authorized staff to proceed with pre-negotiations, and then, and there was a letter sent to the selected developer. They needed to come, which is ClearPath, and they had to come back to the city with providing certain information to assure that they had the financial capacity to pull off the project. And I think in the meantime now it's become public. The 2 teams that essentially joined together, that were the last 2 submittals, they have provided their information, and the November 4th meeting, you will see a city council action on it.
Is that regular time?
Yeah, well, morning, yes, it's a morning.
What do you mean by see action on it?
Well, we have to, they have submitted that information that was requested about their financing plan and that they have the financial capacity. All that information will be provided to council, will be in the backup, and PFM will provide like a letter stating their certainty that the financial capacity is there, and then, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what, PFM is the city's financial advisor, I don't know what
Consultant.
PFM stands, but that's
I
our
don't want to
consultant.
say, but they're a national consultant.
Right.
To
They're the
municipalities.
city's, I'm sorry, they're the city's bond, they're really hired as the city's bond financial advisor, but they do have an arm that does, part of their company, their consulting company that does assist cities with public projects like Three Corners, and they're doing all the financial review on the project for us. All the financial analysis that's required for the city enters into agreement. So they will give the assurance that they've reviewed all the documents, the financial capacity is there by the selected development team. And then the requested action of council will be to direct staff to proceed with negotiations.
Negotiations for what?
A master development agreement.
Okay.
Because
So
ultimately, there will be a master development agreement between the selected development team and the city.
Okay. So, and it probably looks reasonably promising that the financials will pass based upon.
It looks
what
good.
we've read?
Yeah, well, if you recall from, if you were following the whole saga of Three Corners, we had one team, that had, one team had really good architecture, real good design, a real good plan that I think really the community, bought into. The other team was stronger in its financials and the operators. And by the 2 teams merging together, now you got both the best project proposals.
Do any of you have any questions regarding Three Corners? No?
If you say yes, what happens next and how long will it take?
Negotiations of the master development agreement becomes,
That's the next. You said how much time?
How long will it take? Let's talk about action items.
You know, optimistically, I think we're thinking by maybe March or April, 2026, we would have the term sheets, but to be honest with you, I have been involved with these type of negotiations on the city side, and I've seen them bogged down on a minor detail between the development team and the city. So, it's hard to say, but, we'll see where we are March or April next year.
We should
That-
all
that's
guess
just-
when there'll be shovels on the
What
ground,
it-
right?
I think there, kind of like what, the attorney said at our planning board meeting, it's easier to negotiate peace in the Middle East than, he said, to get a cross-access easement.
Yeah,
Or something.
well, yeah,
So,
it's,
I shouldn't say it's
I'm
that
sorry,
bad,
I
with
thought I
development, but
saw
I'll be honest, I
you
have
go up right
seen,
here. Thank
I've
you.
been involved in a project like this on a city side, and it can get bogged down on just some minor, the $500 an hour lawyer's gotta earn their money somehow.
You've got a question right here.
Yeah,
Yes.
there have been many,
It's on
there have
there.
been many pieces of the plan, or kind of components and large scale. Are you looking in November at an entire approval, like of the entire plan, or of a piece of the plan?
What plan are you talking about?
Three corners.
still think.
Three corners seems to have different components to it at different times when you see different proposals.
In terms of this master development?
Correct. Are we,
Well,
what is the scope of what you're looking at?
so the
approving in
developer,
November?
the RFP was primarily for the former power plant site. So this would be, the development agreement would address the, what we call the waterfront village, the marina, the redevelopment or the reconstruction of the old power plant building with some additions for a hotel, and then the park and public amenities that surround the area.
So basically, everything, the entire parcel south of the bridge as opposed to
North of the bridge.
North of the bridge.
North of the bridge.
The former power plant
north of the
site.
bridge, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
okay? The entire part would be.
Definitely, everything that you see on the plan that involves the power plant site will be part of this master development agreement. Most likely, what's called the former post office annex will also be part of this deal because they're proposing, and they're still talking through this pre-negotiation period, like possibly using that site for multifamily development there. So there's.
So it's the huge master plan of the whole thing in addition to any remediation you need so that nothing leaches into the lagoon?
Leaches.
Well, so as you're doing the
No,
development.
environmental, just the environmental issues, the city has done a phase 1, phase 2 environmental, that's been separate. The best I could tell you about the site is, the best of my planning is that the site, believe it or not, even though it was a former power plant, the contamination levels on there do not rise. Basically, no remediation needs to occur for the type of development we're putting on there, meaning commercial development based on EPA standards.
I just want to make sure, what you're looking at doing an entire plan so that you really know what you're doing and you have the full financing before anything starts, so that it isn't a partial project that starts and needs to be
Well, that's
halted
what
partway through.
right, that's a whole negotiation, that's part of what we'll be negotiating in master development. What the city's looking for on its end is to make sure the city's interest is protected, that you don't get a project that
Correct.
starts
Correct.
and then just falls apart and the city's left with a partially
Correct.
developed project. And when I talked about the details of the master development, that's a lot of what the city's gonna be negotiating and that's what PFM is, for us, is looking at. And their financial analysis is ensuring that we have a development team that can carry this project out and the city's not left with a partially developed project. Yes, and that's what that's a lot of what we're gonna be looking at.
So in November, you'll tell them to proceed to start with that plan, and then you'll get to review that afterwards before anything happens.
No, council will be directing staff to enter into negotiations. The developer then will be given the opportunity, the developer will be given what's called, that starts their due diligence period. Anytime, if you've been involved in real estate, especially large projects like this, they usually have 3 or 4 months of what they call due diligence to look through those environmental issues to make sure there's, they start having, it gives them the opportunity as developers to know what is the full cost to them based on the existing conditions of the site. So they'll be able to do what they call their due diligence. They might even start some preliminary designing, and then at that time, we're negotiating the master development agreement. And that's why I say it could take, all things go well, March, we're entering into that agreement.
So that's what you're telling them to start down the path, hoping in March you'll really know what the whole caboodle looks like.
Then we know
and
the
you decide to start
then we
doing it.
know the financial details of the development agreement.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We, I should mention, Irina did reach out to the developers, and we kind of tentatively have penciled in maybe February, right? We're, at least we've reached out to them, we've invited them to come.
If all these dates line up,
What has to line up, stars?
the dates, yeah.
Dates.
Stars, planets.
So if all the dates
Galaxies.
line up between, their planning, your planning, et cetera, so just so you know, we do, have them all, we did invite them. One time next year, in February, we have the opportunity to use the quote-unquote, the big stage, the Star Theater. And so if the stars really align, when they come, we'll get that space, and then it would be a nice forum to have for a larger group. So Jason, I'm gonna put you on the spot. If you, having said what you just said, and it just sounds like a long time, and it just started in 2019, so if you had to guess, when would the first shovel go into the ground?
Oh, shovel? We had this discussion at the city hall, we were trying to figure out some timelines, because we have local contractors as they do projects around the city, like to use Three Corners as their utility yard. And we're beginning to have to start telling them no more. I think we said, for shovel in the ground, I think we said, maybe beginning of 27, because you gotta remember what needs to happen is we have to do the master development agreement.
Right,
Then once we have a master development agreement, the developer is they have to start doing their site planning, some of the stuff we just talked about today. It could take them 6 months for their engineers to put all those documents. It takes 6 months for engineers to put all those things together to even submit to the city, and then you got the 6-month review time of the city. So we're probably not talking, if they got the development, if they got the agreement in March of 26, the first planning and zoning board approval of a site plan for the site is probably at best a year later in March of 2027. And then you got a shovel in the ground. So, I don't know. I know we're all eager to go eat out at a restaurant on the river. I am too. And something different than fried fish or
Riverside.
Italian.
so if you think it'll go in the ground, let's say spring of 27, and probably it'll be the fall of 27, or probably early 28, I mean, there's always something that comes up.
Right.
And
And I
so
forget
maybe,
their timeline, if they stick with the stuff they presented, the
Right.
selected developer. The first phase of the project is what we call the Riverfront Village, which is the restaurants and the retail and the promenade out at the front.
that's what I call a long-term project.
Yeah.
So like I said last time, all you have to do is live. And hopefully, you'll see and get your meal. Gentlemen, you've been really kind with your time, and we've learned a lot, and I know, we have an architect here in the room, and I said to him, you probably know about all this. He goes, no, I'm learning, so this is really, wonderful information, so we really appreciate it. And we'd like to thank all of you for joining us tonight, and I'd like to thank, Danielle, who is the, assistant to the CEO, and so they have been very kind to give us their space. And you have one more question? Okay, because I don't want you to get mad at me.
Actually, I know we're out of time here, but Karen Wynn, I'm from Sebastian. And I was hoping that Representative Brackett and Senator Grawl would be here tonight to talk about an important issue, I think, and that's open carry. And, we've had an incident in Publix, and then on Saturday at the demonstration in Sebastian, we had a gentleman walk right next to the group carrying an AK-45, 20 feet away from the group. And fortunately, Sebastian City Police resolved the issue very nicely. I mean, they were wonderful. They corralled him and kept him busy and all of that. So anyway, I guess the issue here is we have a lot of mental health issues right now, a lot of polarization, and open carry just doesn't seem to be an appropriate thing now. It was passed 3 sessions ago. Actually, our Representative Brackett was the sponsor on the bill. And I would really like to see a movement of reaching out to our legislators and asking them to repeal open carry, because, it's what it's doing is it's not getting rid of concealed carry, but it's getting rid of the larger assault weapons that you can't stick in your purse and hide. It's allowing these larger weapons to come into our public spaces. So anyway, if this is an issue that resonates with you, it's a really easy thing to ask for. Just repeal open carry. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Well, like I said, we've reached out to Mr. Brackett, and we will continue to invite him to join us. And then I hope you'll come back and ask you a very thoughtful question. And obviously, it's of course it's a concern, right? That it's kind of spooky if somebody now came over to the parking lot, right, and had that. So anyway, so I appreciate your thoughtfulness. Thank you. So how do you segue from open carry to to say thank you? And you, gentlemen, you have one more question? Okay, here you go, and then we'll really have to scoot, right? Yeah, yes, we gotta go, because the show starts in 30 minutes.
Hey, I looked out on the island here and I've looked at 32963 and seen the 3/4 project going on and battling around on designs, and this is my opinion. I think you've got a building that is old, it served its purpose, it's got smokestacks we want to keep. They're going to be a huge maintenance problem, especially during a storm, maybe if not now, but maybe 3 or 4 years from now. But you got a beautiful canvas to build something right on, bring the proper elevation up from the building. I don't know what we're trying to do, save them, this old building, when we can build something magnificent for the town of Vero. And you're spending a lot of money, you're putting a lot of constraints on architects to try to make something work in a footprint when you could start from scratch and build something Dade County wind spec codes, something that's gonna last. And I just think it's I think we need to let it go and start from scratch on that, because I just don't see it. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I can answer that pretty simply. And the answer to that is the developers were not constrained when the RFPs went out, how they wanted to develop the land, other than the umbrella, because I sat on the steering committee for this. If they wanted to use the power plant, great. If they didn't want to use the power plant, great. They all wanted to use the power plant.
That's true.
Okay? So it's the developer's choice to do it. If they submit a plan to us that meets the criteria the city council has established, that includes a power plant, God bless them. If they can build it, that's what it's gonna be done. But if,
Preserve it.
huh?
The
people voted. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's essentially what's gonna
It's
happen.
in the city charter now.
Now it's in city charter. Well,
Again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Riverside.
Yeah. You know, bringing up with that one thing, so we already find out what we're hearing. Yeah. Yeah.